Right. So thank you. Thank you, Zoom. Okay. So at Jaia Life, we are passionate about living life authentically and with intention. That means proactively escaping the hamster wheel that is living life on autopilot. We created this podcast, and now I have to start again.
That's okay. Just keep going.
Okay. We created this podcast, My One Wild and Precious Life, to share with the world the stories of women we love and admire, who we believe live authentically and fully empowered. We hope that by hearing their stories, our listeners will be inspired to stop playing small, start believing in their authenticity, own their innate gifts, and feel empowered to share their talents, wisdom, skills, joy, and love with the world. We believe that by sharing our stories and really listening to one another, we raise each other up, we heal, we help one another succeed, and by doing that, we help make the world a better place. We are thrilled to have you, Milan, join us today for a meaningful and action-packed conversation about how you live life on autopilot. So let's begin. So as you know, you filled out our questionnaire for us, and I just want to say thank you so much for that. That gives us a really great jumping off point to get started. And what I'd like is to just remind you that we're trying to keep these podcasts to about 30 to 40 minutes. So we don't need to go too much into like every little detail of your past or your life or whatever questions we're going to cover. And I'm saying this because we did have a guest who literally took step by step. And it's just, I mean, it was really interesting, but a little not usable for what we're doing here. Yeah. So starting right now, we're going to begin. So Milan, thank you so much for joining us. We are thrilled to have you here. I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself and Lotus Integrative Health and Nursing and what's going on with you, how you got there.
Hi, Sherry. It's so good to be here with you. So exciting.
Thank you.
I'm excited for all of you too, for you and Barb for doing this podcast.
Thank you.
So I am a nurse practitioner and a nurse midwife. I started my career as a nurse midwife in women's health and moved into family practice. And Lotus Integrative Health and Nursing is a midwife to my own baby business 2 years ago. And it is a functional medicine practice and now focusing on women's health and fertility.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about, I mean, I know you can't go into total detail about what functional medicine is, but I think that there's a lot of misconceptions out there. So tell us a little bit about what functional medicine is.
Yeah, I think, I call it, I probably am really doing integrative medicine, and integrative medicine is that bridge between our conventional medical sort of knowledge and our traditional medical knowledges, from Eastern medicine. And functional medicine is sort of another branch of that, where we're combining lots of different modalities and really looking at what I say to my clients is the cellular level. What's happening at the cellular level? Why are you having dysfunction or disease? And how can we alter that by giving herbs, supplements, conventional medicines? How do we take the best of all worlds in research and even anecdotal, research, and give you what works for you on an individual level?
Okay. And why? Like, what brought you here after starting out in traditional medicine?
So, I did conventional medicine. I started with you as a midwife many, many years ago. And that was my sort of base is that our bodies know what to do as women, and we know how to give birth, and we know how to be pregnant, and we know what to do best for the baby. And I think that was always in my mind the way medicine should be practiced. And I just had some career bumps where I decided to do family medicine, and I loved it. But I kind of noticed I was on this sort of autopilot. We talk about autopilot. I was sort of doing the same thing over and over again. And a lot of my clients were wanting me to give them pills to make them feel better, whether it's hypertension, diabetes. And I was doing it because that was what I was taught in conventional medicine in our American system. That's how you treat patients for these X, Y, and Z diseases. And I noticed that the most profound effect I had on my clients, especially once I got a lot of experience, was when I spent a lot of time with them. I went over diet and nutrition, and I gave them supplements. I gave them my love and care.
Mhm.
And I saw them really benefit from the relationship we had, and they got healthier. And that was when I knew what I had been taught to do was not what we should be doing in medicine. And it was really combining sort of some of the things that I had gone into medicine for,
Mhm.
things that I had learned, and I knew that I had to look for a future in medicine. And I kind of stumbled on this field.
Yeah. So I think what I'm hearing is that you wanted to have a real impact, but you found yourself sort of in that rote hamster wheel of not only doing what perhaps the patients expect because that's what they're used to,
Mm,
but also doing what the system has set you up to do
yeah,
and isn't always satisfying.
for anybody. I mean,
Right.
I was doing what I loved, which was interfacing with my clients,
Hmm.
patients,
Hmm.
doing the best I could. But I, of course, over time also lost kind of, I didn't lose my passion because I think my passion is always there, but I didn't feel hopeful in some sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what struck me is I'm a person who has a lot of hope. And suddenly I was in this situation where I was like, my patients aren't getting better, only the ones that I really spend lunch hour working extra to help, or, you know, those are the ones who really thrive, or the ones who wanted that relationship with me, that there was a disconnect between what I had hoped for them and what they were, where they were going. So yeah, it became really apparent over time that it was time for a change for me.
Yeah, and I think that that's not a surprise. I mean, it's just a part of the zeitgeist now that we're all realizing that perhaps the one of the benefits of the pandemic was this idea that um, there's something more out there for all of us. None of us want to be stuck in doing something that's not fruitful, that doesn't feel right. And boy, especially for healthcare workers, this has been a hard slog.
And I think that slog was always there.
Yeah.
It just, the pandemic made it even harder. And I know lots of people who are shifting gears in this last 2 years. I had already decided to shift gears before the pandemic, but it became so apparent to me that, you know, great. I'm so glad I had already made this decision because, um, it was time.
Yeah, and Barb and I, like you, felt the same way. We had actually started this, we had started down this road before, and then in March of 2020, it just accelerated. I would be so surprised, well, be curious rather, to hear what our classmates are doing now,
Yeah.
where they are. I wonder because I'm not in touch with most of the people. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think all of us have been in the medical field, what, 25 years
Yeah.
almost. And
Hmm.
so I think many providers hit, I don't, we're mid-career. I would
Hmm.
say we're mid-career or a little past mid-career. And
Hmm.
so it's sort of, you start feeling the burden of what of, I also just look back and say, what have I truly done? Like, I know I've taken care of a lot of people. I
Right,
know a
right,
lot of
right,
people, but on a deeper level, what
right,
have I truly,
right,
truly achieved? And when you see the healthcare system still operating at the same way as
right.
it was 25 years
25
ago,
years ago.
you know that I was just a cog in the wheel. And I tried many times to, hey, let's start this program to help people who are narcotics. Let's start this program to give Depo, Provera shots or birth control. Let's make it easy for patients to get, I even started group care on two of the places, one in prenatal care and one in chronic disease. And I could see the impact we had in group
Mm-hmm.
care. And yet we were doing well. We could even start collecting data on outcomes, and boom, we'd get shut down for, you know, oh, there's no money in the budget. This
Mm-hmm.
was a big
Mm-hmm.
common thing. And I'm sure
Right.
you've experienced this in your previous workplaces. You have an innovative idea, and as a practitioner, you know what's needed on the ground, and yet you're shot down. And it's such a blow, because the data shows this is an effective way to take care of patients. That financially it actually might be a boon for people, yet somehow the way of thinking is just stuck. And talk about a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And healthcare is like the biggest hamster wheel out there.
Yeah. The two things that come to mind when you talk about that is that, yeah, the only thing that really has changed is now we have electronic medical records.
And they haven't really made our life any better.
No, they've actually made it harder for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
it's pushed a lot of good clinicians out of the business who would have stayed longer, but they just couldn't wrap their heads around it. And the other thing I really heard you talk about was you talked about care. And when you talked about, especially also the groups, I know that I've been focused on centering pregnancy, group
Right.
prenatal care. And there's so much data on positive, not only positive quality, medical, quality outcomes, but also client satisfaction and clinician satisfaction outcomes. And I think it's because the care is there. That in healthcare is two words put together, right? Health and care. And when you really get to spend a little bit more time with people, you get to put the care in. And that's what we want to do, because that's what really gets the results, right?
I'm just laughing because I remember one of our first classes. You know what I'm going to talk about.
I don't
Our,
know.
our first class, we were both at Columbia
Mm-hmm.
entering the entry to practice program.
Mm-hmm.
And our professor gave us a book, and I think I still have it, on nursing as a caring profession, and caring is important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there were some people who were snickering, oh my God, we're here to provide medical care. What is this caring stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And here we are 25 years later. And what are we thinking? That book is probably the most important thing we learned about everything we're doing, right? I mean, in
Yeah.
the end, if we don't have caring, what is the medical knowledge we have? It's not going to help another person.
That's amazing, because I'm not even sure I remember that. But I was probably one of the people who was sort of snickering, like I'm here to diagnose people, get away from me with these nursing diagnoses,
Yes.
altered body image.
And now we're so proud to be nurses, right? Aren't we?
Totally, because I have learned the hard way. And this isn't against physicians. It's just that the medical model as it's practiced today just has a huge deficit in it.
Yes.
And that deficit is the care. And it's not that the clinicians don't care. They do.
They do.
It's the system does not allow anyone to practice with care, with real care. Because it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's pregnancy or cancer or chronic illness like diabetes, that it's the care that's really the healing part.
It is. And it is. And I think I was just telling you that I did Reiki training just
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I feel, and I don't know what it is. It's energy. I mean, caring is energy,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
do know, now that I do Reiki, and I think we were just talking about, can you do Reiki through Zoom? You can do Reiki through Zoom. Mm-hmm. And I know it because I practiced it with someone and they felt it on the other end. And I thought, wow, this is just so powerful. This is what caring is. It's an energy. It's an energy between two people. And this is how we truly heal. And we have lots of great medical knowledge, and it's wonderful. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else if I had a really high level disease. But when it comes to basic care, which is what most of us need on a daily basis, is basic health care. What to eat, what to do, what should I be taking a vitamin? All these basic questions. And it's also having the interaction with someone to support us and provide that positive energy that we have the potential to heal. Our bodies
Right.
have the potential to
And
heal.
it's interesting, right? Because there's so much evidence to back this up. There's so much evidence about coaching, because what is coaching? Coaching is one-to-one care.
It is.
It's not magic. It's not even necessarily having a knowledge base, although I do think that that helps, because then you can provide more education for the people that you're working with. But it really is about the support, the encouragement, and the care. And not only is there um, a good amount of research about the benefits of coaching, but also like doulas, it's the same idea, right? A doula is a birth coach, right? And there's so much evidence about not only outcomes, but the quality of the experience for the family unit that's being born is completely different when they have that one-to-one care.
So I'll argue that it is magical then, because what here we are trying to give pills and get magic from, big pharma. No, the true magic lies in connection.
Right. Yeah. And that's really cool too, because, there is some, I mean, there is some magic in big pharma. I mean, thank goodness
Yes,
that we live in
yes,
a
there
place
is.
where the research can happen, and we can heal
Yes.
terrible diseases. But most people are not suffering from terrible diseases. They're suffering from uh, burnout, life burnout,
Right.
burnout in their professions, burnout in their relationships, um, uh, burnout in self-care,
Mhm.
because there's only so much that you can keep doing before you don't feel like you can move forward and you're stuck on that hamster wheel. I'd like to switch a little bit and go back to what challenges did you have to overcome? So I know that there are challenges within the healthcare system that led you to want to seek to do something new. But what what was that like on a personal level, on an energetic level for you?
I think the biggest challenge was myself. It,
Hmm.
it really is a mindset. And I know sounds cliche. I think everybody says that, oh, it's your mindset. But
Hmm.
if I look at what really was stopping me from doing the kind of healthcare that I wanted to do and have my own business and have my own type of practice that really was truly a reflection of what I believe to be good healthcare, I just didn't feel ready or supported to have my own business. And
Hmm.
whether that was financially, because I was a working mom this whole
Hmm.
time. I think both of us had big student loans, that were a financial burden, and going into healthcare is not easy. And,
Sure. Hmm.
you're looking at the day to day, and, who's going to take care of your kids, and who's going to cook dinner. And, oh my gosh, the thought of creating a business, that was overwhelming. So also, I think as a nurse practitioner, I felt hemmed in by the medical system, and that you know physicians are given the power and freedom to own businesses, and as nurse practitioners we have laws that prevent us from doing so.
In
Interest
certain places.
in certain places. Interestingly enough, I opened this business 2 years ago and thought I would have trouble finding a physician collaborator, and I didn't. I had, four people ready to help me because they
That's great.
believed in what I was doing. So I think again, we as women, we as nurses, nurse practitioners feel trapped because of some of these whether they're personal mindset issues and then also legal issues. But I think I just got to a point where I realized I had to do it. And so I thought, okay, you know what? I don't know until I know that this isn't possible. And it was possible. I mean, the minute I changed my mindset and decided I was going to make a way to make this happen, and it changed, and things happened for me.
So, that word mindset, I agree with you. It's kind of thrown around a lot, and in some ways, it's maybe used incorrectly or overused. But at the same time, um, there is a lot of evidence too now that neuroscience has become so accessible to understand, because there's so much more information about it out there, that mindset is a huge either impediment or spring to set you on your journey. And I heard you. So how do you think your mindset changed? Like what effect, what got in there? I heard two things. I heard, being hemmed in, and then I heard you say, I got to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. So where did the rubber meet the road? And
Rubber.
how did you take off on your one wild and precious life?
I think the rubber met the road in one of my last positions. I was working for a really large medical system, and I was there for 4 years. Actually loved what I was doing. I was doing almost full family practice and women's health, prenatal care, which is sort of was my sweet spot for many, many years, where I
Mhm.
was doing a little bit of everything, being challenged. And they had budget cuts, and I couldn't believe it. I was not in a permanent position, and these sort of large organizations require you to have permanent positions, and if you're not, then you're sort of well, all of us are replaceable. I've learned that many, many times, but I was more easily replaceable because I was not protected in a protected position.
Got it.
And when and it happened to me, once before, and I just felt like, wow, I'm a healthcare provider. This isn't supposed to happen to us. We're supposed to have a job. I mean, it's never been, knock on wood, never been a problem for me to find a job, but I really enjoyed my workplace. It wasn't far from home. I was dealing with a diverse community. I was speaking 3 languages, doing, my full scope practice. I did procedures, I did prenatal care. There's so many things that I was doing, and I loved it. And yet here I was in a position again where I was being let go. And there was really just, a budget cut. And I felt like it was really targeted towards nurse practitioners.
Uh-huh.
And I saw other nurse practitioners also being let go.
Mhm.
And I realized that, everybody in the staff was like, I can't believe this. You're the one who knows how to do the most. You know how to speak 3 languages. You can take care of anybody who walks in the door. And, our staff was crying. My patients were crying.
Mm.
I was crying. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Why is this happening? And I even went to, I was supposed to be protected by a union, and went to the union, and they didn't help me. And I realized, okay, you know what? I'm done with these big systems and supposed, you're supposed to be safe, or, there's no safety. I think that's where I had thought that being in a big system would be safe, as far as being in a position, uh, financially and job security, and then being in a job that I loved. And I thought, if I am not safe anywhere, then I'm better off creating my own safety by creating something that I truly believe in and I want to do. And that was sort of where I just decided, okay, I'm done with big systems. I'm done with having a job. I want to be my own boss. And I'm going to figure out something that really resonates with me, and is a true reflection of myself as a healthcare provider, and myself as a person.
What I'm hearing is that you have a lot of courage, because not everybody has the courage to break free, has the faith that they'll land on their feet. Um, a lot of people have the inspiration, but a lot of people don't have the courage and the will. When when I think about that, it makes me think about what would you say are the values that you live by? And I ask that question because we talk a lot about at Jaia Life, we talk a lot about values being the core of your identity, and that we can really succeed at anything and do anything when we're aligned in our values. And I'm not talking about like, I'm going to win an Oscar next month because, well, I'm not an actress anymore, so I'm not up for an Oscar anyway. But the idea that if when you're being guided by your values, you can't help but be on the road to success because you're in true alignment. So I'm just curious, what values guide you?
I think this idea that hard work should be rewarded, I do think
Mhm.
that that should be happening. I do think that we should do our best. I don't see all medical systems doing that. Some of
Mhm.
our larger medical systems doing that. I think that was a big one for me was if I was the only person on staff or one of the two people who spoke Spanish, then why are you letting somebody go when half the population coming in speaks Spanish? Then, that's a value right there that we want to represent diversity.
Yeah, it's a value. It's a lack of a value in the organization.
Yes.
It's really
Yes.
what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
But for
Yeah.
me, like I want to, if I'm going to bring, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the fullest of my ability and work hard. And I'm going to help the people I can help. And then I'm going to, you know, in my organization, I mean, if I have patients coming in who speak Spanish, I speak Spanish. I'm not going to turn people away for that, for not being able to, I don't know how to express this, but basically, we need to embrace diversity and we need
Mhm.
to make that a value. Um, I
Well,
think,
everybody's embracing diversity, right? We're all
but you
embracing
have to act
diversity.
on it.
I, I mean, I've, and I'm glad. I
Yeah,
mean, oh man, am I glad.
yeah,
But what I keep coming up against is systems that are embracing it. They make you sit through the trainings. The trainings are good.
yeah.
I come away crying. I come away saying to my coworkers, I can't believe you've had to go through something like this because of your race or the color of your skin or your religion or whatever. But but we're still not putting that into action. We're
Exactly.
still going we're still, everything is operating toward this mean, which is, white upper class. It's not even really middle class anymore, or God forbid, below middle class America.
Right.
Everything is going in that direction. And we're not, so we're talking about the values, but we're not living them. So with you now,
Mhm.
um, would you say you're living more authentically than you were?
Yeah. I, I just, I didn't even think I could get here. So, I don't think I ever not lived authentically because I always did whatever I could do with whatever space I was in, whatever time period I was in, whatever support I had.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I've been given an opportunity to actually have my own business, which is great. To have the support I need to have a practice as a nurse practitioner, to do the kind of work that I would like to, that I'm doing, that I like to do. And I think authentically, I didn't know about integrative and functional medicine as much as I do now. And I had, obviously, as a midwife, starting as a midwife, we always did natural remedies for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
um, symptoms. But the amount of knowledge that's there that we are not learning in our professional, capacities, it's the knowledge is amazing, and there's so much research now about natural remedies and uh, supplements, and I'm just blown away over the last 2 years where I've studied this and now um, hoping to get certified at the end of the year in functional medicine, just how much we can help people on a deeper level, on a long-term level, by really addressing root cause. And I think that's something that we need to move towards in our conventional medical systems is what are we really trying to solve here? I mean, if somebody has diabetes, giving them metformin is great, but we really need to address how they're moving, how they're exercising, how they're living, how are they feeling? I mean, I think you touched on, how burnt out people are. And that is a big, the dissatisfaction level, whether it's their job or their home life or whatever upheavals they have in their home is affecting their health. So, we can't move the needle on healthcare unless we move the needle on a deeper level.
Yeah. And oh my goodness, I forgot what I was going to say. All right, well, we'll move on and maybe it'll come to me. I think one of the things I wanted to ask you is, so how do you consistently put those values forward? How does it play out in your day to day?
So, if I'm teaching self-care, I have to actually do it, right? I
Right.
mean, I'm teaching that on a daily basis to all my clients. And, it isn't easy because we're also in a culture that really doesn't value self-care. We
Mhm.
value work. And of course, you and I are in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. There's no other hardworking place than the Bay Area. I mean, my gosh, New York City might be the other end of it. People are working 60-hour weeks. And obviously, owning my own business now, I'm working more than I've ever worked, actually. But I also have the ability to set my schedule and have more control over how I show up. And so, I, on a daily basis, I'm really striving for the things that I teach and practice, which is, daily meditation, daily exercise. I do stretching every day. I mean, they sound mundane, but then when I do them on a regular basis, I feel amazing. So I
Yeah.
know that it works, and we know research shows that it works, but it really does work. And I'm much more effective as a person in my work when I do all these things for myself. And we cook for us. Sometimes we do batch cooking on the weekend, and we do some cooking during the week, and we eat lots of vegetables. And I mean, and it seems really simple. It is not easy to do. That's why we're all struggling with it,
Yeah.
right? That's why we
Yeah.
need
And it's
coaching
not
and support.
inexpensive either.
It's not inexpensive.
Yeah. So you practice what you preach. But I will also say this. I think that there's, I just want to say that I think that there's a lot of places where people are working hard. I think there's people working hard all over the place.
All over
I
the
think the
place.
difference for me, I think that the difference in the Bay Area and the difference in New York City, let's say, um, at LA, probably, these huge mega metropolises, is
Mhm.
that a lot of the hard work is driven by competition.
Yeah.
And that is, of course, what our economy is based on. And it has become what our lifestyle is based on.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that authentic disconnect comes from, because competition isn't a lifestyle.
I agree with you. And
You know?
I didn't mean any, because you probably are going to have listeners from all over. And I don't want to say that other people aren't working hard.
No,
Everybody's
I
working
think I
hard.
know what you meant. I think
But I think the
that's why
expectation,
I
yeah,
said that, because
yeah,
it's not that, it's not just, I mean, we're all working hard, and it's not just the hard work. It's the fact that the hard work is underlined by this relentless drive,
and
and
it's crazy. It's like
fueled, of course, by the fact that we're always faced with what everybody else is doing. And so it's so hard to get to our authentic selves, because
it's
it's
like a
in our
badge of honor.
face all the time.
It's like a badge of honor. Oh, I work 80 hours a week,
Right.
and I'm like, that is not something to be proud of.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, especially if it's done like you're saying in this sort of competitive, with a with a emphasis on competition rather than with for example, if I'm working on my business, I'm working hard because it's something that's an expression of myself, and I really want my business to succeed. So if I'm
Right.
working 40 hours, it's not because somebody's telling me to do it. It's because I want to do it, because I know I have something of value that I'm giving to others. And
Yeah.
so, and you're right. I think this idea of what is the true reason why we work, why we do what we do. And maybe this is sort of a place for that root cause analysis. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I here? We could even take it deeper. What are we on this earth for? But the fact of the matter, and I have thought about that, and that was definitely a question in my head when I was choosing a business, was what was I put on this earth to do?
So how do you get in touch with that? You said you were thinking about it. I think about it all the time. And I have to tell you, I'm still not entirely sure. Um, I do know that when I have those real human connections,
Mhm.
when whoever it is, whether it's my daughter or a friend or a client or a patient in labor, when somebody when somebody says to me that I helped them, in that moment, I know why I'm here.
Yeah.
Um, but I have to slog through a lot of paperwork and a lot of like apologizing for being late to pick somebody up, and a lot of, counting my pennies at the, you know, Whole Foods to get some organic kale to get to that place where I have that moment of release, that I fulfilled I fulfilled myself. I fulfilled my destiny for a moment by being on this earth and having an honest connection with another person.
So I don't think the joy of that moment would be there without the counting of the pennies and doing the paperwork and all these other things. I
Really?
just Yes, I think it's sort of very much an Eastern, I don't know, I have this, I'm learning a lot more about Eastern health traditions and this idea of yin and yang and without one or the other, without one you cannot have the other. So you cannot have a moment of bliss without having a moment of boredom or I do feel that we only enjoy or have more joy when we know moments where we have no joy. So those moments of joy have more meaning.
Right. I hear you. For a moment, I was going to counter what you said and say, oh, but I think that, I was going to bring it back to this idea that what I was kind of talking about was this toxic stress, that comes from the relentless
Yeah.
competition, the relentless having to keep up, the relentless having to keep going. But I do hear what you're saying on a totally different level, that, there's good and there's the yin and the yang. There's good and there's bad. Um, and as I was just talking to somebody last night about this, a young woman who's kind of, who's on the brink of her journey to figuring out who she is and what she wants to do. And she has these incredible, incredible, lofty ambitions about being of service to help other people. And, a lot of the conversation was similar to this, but we both came to this decision based on different things we read or were told by mentors, that you're supposed to feel it all. You know that for me, it was reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle. This idea that you just can't be happy all the time. And you have to find a way to sit with the pain and the sorrow and process it and let it wash over you, just like you have to allow the happiness to do that too. You can't think that you can grab it and hold on to it forever as much as you want to. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, do I want to.
Especially in healthcare. I think, we thrive on that that connection we have with our client. And I get it too. I just love it when I meet a client for the second time and we've done a lot of interventions over a month. And we have in functional medicine we have a medical symptoms questionnaire, and
Mhm.
I love it because it just they come in doing it, and they have all these symptoms, and then in a month we do it again. And I had a client where she was at 184 and now she's at 58. And you're like,
Wow.
oh my gosh, I've reduced her symptoms 3 times, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I get that little, it's a little high. I don't know if that's what people who are using substances are looking for, because I feel it when I've had it with a client and they're saying, oh my God, I feel so much better. I feel, I feel I can move, I can sleep, I can, eat, I can connect with my friends. I mean, these are the little joys that I get. And yeah, I wish I could have them all day, every day. It would just make my life, I'd be in bliss. But when I don't, and I'm in a moment where I'm like, oh, I have to do all this paperwork for my business so I can keep running. And I think that's okay. I'm going to get that moment where I'm working with someone and it's going to be rewarding to do all this paperwork because I got to this point where I could see somebody improve their life.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners? What's the nugget of wisdom? What's the yeah, what's the takeaway?
I think to just live your most authentic life is to really do some soul searching. And I don't think that it's always going to be perfect at any one moment. Um, you know, and I don't think, I think it was the Facebook executive who said, lean in and do it all. And I don't know if that's really
Right.
leading
Yep.
either. I think it's choosing how to
East
be the
Coast,
most.
that's that whole the coast and the metropolis
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's,
great.
it, it really frustrated
Make
me
us
to do
all
that.
feel even worse
Yes,
about
exactly.
when we can't succeed because we didn't lean in enough. I get it.
Yeah, I just think it's to really redefine what that success is for you by living your most authentic, most at any one point in your life. And if that's, maybe you envision, I don't know, for me it was, I remember for a long time I did want to have my own business, and I let it slide because I had kids and I had all these other things going on. But I always stuck to, I wanted a job where I could do full family practice and do prenatal care. And I stuck to that because that was my authentic healthcare, my authentic self as far as what I wanted to do for work.
Mm-hmm.
So I just hung on to the things that I felt were the most important at the time. And that was my most authentic self. And I think it's a journey. So you will get to maybe the most authentic self at some point, by continuing to strive for that. And
Yeah, and I think actually that I think that that's was actually what the lean in was about leaning into your authentic self, leaning into what you have to do, want to do, need to do, in order to be that. But it has become this idea of that by leaning in, you will be superwoman, and that is not necessarily. I mean, maybe that is the goal for some people, but again, there's got to be a way for the rest of us to find our own perfect balance, or imperfect balance.
yes, yes. It really is about being what you can be at any one given moment of time and being happy and content with that. Because yes, there's this picture of what I think nowadays we have given women so much pressure. Somebody's decided that we've got to do it all. And I don't know who that person is, but they've really made a lot of us miserable. And I think I realized early on that I just couldn't do that,
Right.
and be sane for myself. So,
Right.
I think for a period of time I worked part-time just because I had kids who had special needs, and I thought, okay, well, this is what I can do, and this is the job I can get, and this is what I can do right now. And I was happy in that because I knew that I couldn't have it all. I think some people can have it all at once. Um, I just think you have to frame that in a way that makes sense to you, and some more than others. But this idea of maybe the real true nugget is content. How do you find yourself content? Um, you know, in the fact that you are doing the best you can. Because I do think there's a lot of forces out there that are telling women, oh, you've got to be this, you've got to be that. And I think really finding what's right for you is the most important, and being content with that. That this is what I've decided is most important to me, and I'm not going to let other people define me.
Well, and I would say, and we're just going to get ready to wrap it up here, but I would say that that's being authentic, because it's knowing what your values are. And I think that that's really hard for a lot of people. A lot of people have lofty ambitions and they sometimes think that that's their values, but it's like, it's really what's here that's driving you. And so take doing the work, taking the time, because it isn't a magic potion, a magic wand, doing the work, taking the time, do the soul searching to know your values, to honor your values, to protect your values, and then to follow them, to allow them to lead you. And, in that way, leaning into that without self-judgment,
Yes.
without getting caught, because I think, in some ways that is that hamster wheel, that self-judgment, what everybody else is doing, what everybody else says I should be doing, what everybody else uh, thinks is right. And we have to find it for ourselves.
We do have to.
This is awesome. Thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about what your offerings are, what's coming up for you, because we talked a little bit about that before we really started recording here.
Yeah. So my company is Lotus Integrative Health and Nursing, and we are just on the verge of launching fertility programs. I am focused on providing individual functional medicine care for women right now. But these fertility programs are sort of the next phase for us. And they're going to be very unique. Functional fertility is really, I think, sort of that bridge between the OBGYN saying, sorry, I'm not sure why you're not getting pregnant or why you're having fertility issues, to seeing, a reproductive endocrinologist for IVF or, an artificial reproductive technology. And so there really isn't a bridge in care there where we can actually understand at a root cause level why people are not getting pregnant, and give them the tools, and whether it's a diet. I have a fertility diet, we have an exercise program, we're doing energy healing, also providing spiritual life coaching to help people from a mindset perspective, because I think there's some issues there that can cause fertility issues, and helping them be their most healthy, whole self to get pregnant. And of course, if, for some of our older patients that might not be enough, then they would move on to IVF and IUI and use more artificial reproductive technologies. So it's a great, I think, entry to fertility care with a lot of support and love. And I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward. We're doing the group care model, which I've done in other places, and we're taking that so that folks have the support they need in this space. And it's a tough, when you look at the statistics, we're really approaching a time where we're seeing more infertility. And I think it's something that there's a huge need for this kind of health service, and we just don't have these kind of services out there. So I'm excited to be filling that gap.
Right. And I also want people to know that on March 12th, we are collaborating with
Yes.
some other really wonderful and diverse practitioners to offer a menopause workshop, a 360-degree review of what it is, how we can cope with it, how we can, the tools that we can use, everything from nutrition to lifestyle changes to mindset, and also bioidentical hormones. So we have a lot of fun things coming up together too. Thank you so much for joining us today. This was a pleasure. And I'm also just thinking that we need to connect more offline too.
Absolutely. And
in all of our spare time.
And I know, well, I'm happy to do it. I'm so happy to be here. And I hope, by me talking about myself has helped somebody else. Sometimes we're like, why would anyone listen to a podcast about me? But we all have knowledge, which I think we can all share. And I certainly learn so much from my clients and people I work with, and, friends. And,
yeah, I think that that's the beauty, is that we again, what we said in the introduction, by sharing our stories, we hopefully plant a little seed of inspiration in somebody, and then we help lift that person up too. And by knowing maybe that we did that, that lifts us up again. So, we're all trying.
We
All
are.
right. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hang on 2 seconds, Milan. I got to get my.
Was
getting
that
here.
okay?